Hello fellow data friends. Patch 1.9 and Charters of Commerce arrived, so I ran 5 time-lapses to gather a ton of data. I will talk about the following: the world market and the amount of import and export orders. There will be a 3-minute time-lapse, then some more graphs and Excel tables. Performance of 1.9 versus 1.8, country data like GDP and population, and global production. Let's start with the world market and the time-lapse. So what do we see here? In the background is the time-lapse for world number 5, the last time-lapse. On the left is a bar chart race showing the most traded goods in the world market. The money value is calculated by multiplying the number of exports with the base price. I couldn't get access to the actual world market price and I have no idea how to calculate it. So base price has to be good enough. I could have used just the number of exports, but cars are worth much more than fabric per item. Hence I favored this approach. Also, these values are the averages over all 5 time-lapses. There can be a lot of variation between runs, but the average should give you a good idea what you can expect. Also, 3 time-lapses are done with 1.9.0 and 2 with 1.9.1. I think and hope the hotfixes didn't impact the economy very much, but rerunning time-lapses cost time. So I hope you let that slide. Please enjoy and I see you after the time-lapse. Here we are. It's 1940 and we have some oil, automobiles, opium and rubber in the top 10 world market trades. Looks promising so far. Oil entered the top 10 around 1910, I think. We also have a decent looking Germany. Denmark belongs to Russia, though Italy isn't unified. Great Britain got addicted by cheap labor and wants to eat even more of China. The US is split, but honestly I have seen worse. But let's dig deeper with some graphs. This graph shows the total number of exports, again as average over all 5 games. The area shows the maximal or minimal amount during any time-lapse. So we see a constant growth in exports, which is what we want. But it is getting interesting when we add the imports as well. There is a clear trend to have fewer imports than exports, which we can easily verify in-game. This is the world market in 1940 in one time-lapse. We usually have noticeably more exports than imports. Each good on the world market has a small inherent demand, which I didn't export or adjust for. That may be the reason why there's a difference in the beginning, but that factor should become neglectable later on. Don't ask me why though. We got an impression of the most important goods on the world market, but let's dig deeper. This graph shows the percentage of exports on each good category over time by area. Military goods seem to be a somewhat small percentage over the whole time span, while staple goods become less important over time. Looks good to me. Now we dive into the world market in 1940. I use 1940 and not 1936 because of autosaves. Okay, staple goods. Fabric is leading both in total value and number of exports. I guess this is mostly cotton, so everyone can produce clothes themselves. And trading merchant marine is like trading trade capacity, which I find quite funny. But trading a lot of fabric and wood feels like the AI might be inclined to trade goods which are locally limited, so to speak. This is the same for luxury goods. Automobiles, drinks and drugs are leading this category. There are some telephones and even some radios, but this is probably more limited by tech. Again, there seems to be a preference to trade geo-locked goods. Tea, coffee, opium, tobacco. Not everyone can produce these need to be traded. This feels like playing in an export banana republic should be viable. Industrial goods. Clear winner oil. Followed by coal, rubber and engines. Again, a clear preference for geo-locked resources. But not much steel or tools in 1940. Is everybody building those themselves? We might see more about this in the last chapter. But maybe you don't have to invade oil and rubber countries anymore, trading for those might be viable. And last, military goods. There's not very much happening here. There are some tanks, but seems like the AI is selling that to the inherent demand of the world market. At least in AI-only games, the AI might be autark regarding weapon productions, though it might be interesting to see the world market during a huge war. The biggest world market was during my first timelapse on 1.9.0, but sadly I forgot to save the save file. So let's have a look on the worst world market instead. The most traded product is actually tea, where China tea has 73% market share. Oil and coal are second. So you can still expect some important raw resources. And there's some pure opium, which is mostly produced by Russia. Oh, the opium company was established in 1934, 6 years ago? And it owns 359 buildings? Well, that looks promising. We also have some Bohemian crystal from Austria dominating the world market regarding glass. And some designer clothes, again Russia. Then there's a little bit of everything. Not a lot of each good, but trade is still happening. So much about the world market. What about performance? Here are two tables. Both show the time needed in minutes until my time lapses reached 1870, 1900 and 1940. The upper table is for 1.8.6 and the lower table is for 1.9. There is one small outlier for 1.9.1, but on average my games run about 5% faster. Which is nice, but there's a big but. If you looked into Reddit, you probably saw a lot of complaints about lags and stuttering. At least I didn't have any problems with this, but I also did something very differently compared to everybody else. I used observer mode. Out of curiosity, I started the game in Switzerland and went AFK. The game reached 1870 after 75 minutes. That's about 13% slower for whatever reason. Which may not sound like much, but adding 9 minutes of lag for every hour played is probably very annoying. This is a known issue by Paradox, and they describe a workaround in a forum post, which I will put into the description. And now we will have a look at country data, GDP first. This graph shows the global GDP in million pounds in 1.9. The line is the mean global GDP, and the shaded area shows the maximal and minimal global GDP reached in any time lapse. Now let's add values from my 1.8.6 time lapses. We have a clear and massive improvement of about 55%. The nation with the biggest GDP in all 5 time lapses was this USA in the 4th time lapse. It has 744 million GDP. France is actually second in this timeline, maybe because they conquered the Rhineland. But I collected more data regarding countries. This shows the percentage of global GDP achieved by any country rank over time. Great powers are at the bottom, unrecognized powers at the top. We see an increase of the GDP share of the smaller nations for the first, say, 20 years. It's probably because there are a lot of smaller nations, and their combined free construction is bigger than the construction of the great powers. But by 1940, the great powers own almost 50% of the global GDP. We will look into the global production later. Let's go to population. This graph shows the global population in million. Please ignore the spikes. These are errors in my calculations due to revolts. And this is a population in 1.8. So 1.9 has a lot more population growth. It reaches almost 2 billion. According to Google, there were about 2.3 billion people in 1940 in the real world. Not perfect, but a lot better. Interestingly, Paradox also reduced the starting population compared to 1.8. The nation with the biggest population in all my 5 timelapses is, no surprise, China. This China in 1.9.0 has 422 million people. Russia, the second place, has less than half of the population. And the loser of all 5 timelapses is this Langfang with, drumroll, 0 population. That is a feat which is usually only achieved over longer time periods than 100 years. Let's again look at the distribution over the country ranks. The population share of the great powers is increasing over time from about 20% to 33%, mostly at the cost of unrecognized major powers apparently. It might be influenced a lot by Britain taking over India directly. And unrecognized regional powers are shrinking a lot as well. Also, let's talk about the weird bump in 1880. We see a massive shift from unrecognized major powers to unrecognized regional powers. Remember, this data is the average over 5 timelapses. I would guess China had a massive civil war in one of the timelapses where both parts became regional powers for a while. I think something similar happened in 1930. China probably exploded into little pieces in one timelapse. You know, probably looking like this. I also exported radicals and loyalists. This graph is the average for the whole world. We see an increase in radicals and loyalists over time, but radicals seem to be somewhat constant after 1880. So, on average, radical management seems to be okay for the AI. But this is on average. There's also the Spartan in the second timelapse on 1.9.0. 90% of the population are radicals, and this is the loyal part of the country. They are locked in combat with the Baden feminist revolt. And look at the difference in attack and defense. It's line infantry and some artillery against mechanized infantry. Technically, the Sikkim wins because everyone hates the government, but it has only 156 people, so it's a failed state anyway. The happiest nation in my 5 timelapses is the Sardinia Piedmont during the last one. It has about 60% loyalists with massive impact on the interest group approvals. We know what the AI trades, and we know that the AI produces more goods. But what exactly is it producing? This graph shows the percentage of global buy orders by category. Again, this is the average over all 5 timelapses. We can see that staple goods start strong with about 60% market share, but they are reduced to about 30% by the end of the game. The share of industrial goods is rising, while the rest seems to stay constant. Let's dig deeper into global production in 1940, staple goods first. On the left is a bar chart with the total value of a good. This is calculated by going through all markets, multiplying the market price with the buy orders in a market, and adding up. Then I took the average over all 5 timelapses. On the right is the same graph for 1.8.6, only from one timelapse, and on the bottom is an Excel sheet with the actual buy and sell orders in 1.9. Remember, 1.9 has about 50% more GDP, so 50% more total value has to be considered unchanged. But there are some key differences. There is, even in absolute terms, less grain in 1.9. And groceries are on rank 2. People are a lot more willing to eat more advanced food. And for some reason, there's a lot more fabric. Yes, the world is producing a lot more clothes, but fabrics climbed a lot in the ranking. It's massively overproduced, so it should be rather cheap. Merchant marines are ranked last, but there are a lot more sell orders than buy orders. Local goods. 1.9 has a lot more services and transportation, but electricity is even worse than 1.8. The GDP improved by 50%, but we have not even half as much electricity in the world. I guess it's even less needed than before, because there are a lot more people which can work. But this is a clue as to why we have more AI GDP. Because the AI can trade properly now, which also helps them to establish new industries. But you cannot trade electricity. It's also directly impacted by the changes of 1.9. When we look around Europe, we can see that most states have exactly one power plant, very similar to 1.8. But one power plant only produces 25 electricity now instead of 100. It also has less workers. But since the AI apparently doesn't know how to build more than one power plant, there is even less electricity. People in 1.9 crave automobiles and meat. That is clearly the biggest change here. And for both cars and meat, there are a lot more buy orders than sell orders. The hunger for meat is still not satisfied. The rest looks roughly similar. Though I want to highlight the noticeable increase in telephones. Still not much, but that is much more than plus 50%. This is America in 1940. They are leading in GDP in this world. The American market has 20,000 units of meat, but it's just not enough. Plus 47% base price. Insane. And it's time for industrial goods. There's more of everything, but there's mostly one big change. Engines. The demand for engines increased a lot, probably because the world is producing a lot more automobiles. The rest looks mostly unchanged. Oil production looks decent, but not great. Even the US, the largest economy in this time-lapse, has still a lot unused oil in Texas. While the British use their rubber, the French do not. There's still a lot untapped potential. And last is military goods, which look remarkably similar. Seems like the AI will get a bit more artillery and a bigger navy, but armies should be mostly unchanged. Which is also interesting, considering that GDP increased by 50%. Though I haven't checked about active wars, both in the old 1.8 time-lapse and the new 1.9 time-lapses. That might impact the balance. But I wouldn't expect much bigger armies. Well, that's it. Looks to me like some great improvements for trade and economy. After time-lapsing and coding a lot, I might even be able to actually play with the new patch myself. And thanks a lot to Sulfi for supporting my channel as data capitalist. Very much appreciated. If you want more information about global production in 1.8.6, to have an even better comparison, click on the top video. Thanks a lot for watching, I see you on the next one.